Good evening, friends. Welcome to the India Power Talk. India Power Talk is a knowledge sharing initiative. We invite international thought leaders and domain experts to share their insights, experiences, and strategies related to business, environment, and education. Today, we are looking at cryptocurrencies, the future of money. You may be wondering what exactly cryptocurrencies are. Well, you have probably heard of Bitcoin. It was the first cryptocurrency introduced in 2009 as a response to the global financial and economic meltdown of 2008. The original philosophy behind it was that the banking system was no longer reliable and people needed an independent digital form of money. So today we have the honor of welcoming Laurie Souza, a leading expert on this complex but interesting topic. I would request you to expand the description in a more simpler form.
For our listeners that are hearing the word cryptocurrency for the first time, I want you to think of digital money. And it's not something that you hold in your hand. Cryptocurrency is digital money, and it was created from a digital program. It's an encrypted program that has an algorithm that cannot be hacked, okay? And so when you are using this technology, which is called blockchain technology, now you have a store of value, and the largest store of value we have right now today in cryptocurrency is called Bitcoin. Now there's a lot of technology words there, but if we just keep it as simple as digital money and that it's actually gaining momentum and gaining value as more people learn about it. Yeah, so I like to call it the future of money.
And during the pandemic, I'm told the price of Bitcoin has really surged. At times whopping 20,000 US dollars, I guess. So some analysts have called it as a safe haven asset, like the gold. I mean, what's your take on the current developments with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies?
Absolutely. So I believe that Bitcoin it's global. There's no nation that's attached to it. There's no country. There's no central authority. When we look at central banks, a bank is an intermediary. There's actually a person that's working, or a bank or an organization that's working, that's charging money for you to transact. And so you have somebody who's depositing money in the bank, and then you are relying on that central authority to actually hold your money to then pay your bills. With Bitcoin right now, you hold your money. It's, even though it's not cash or it's not a physical coin, it's in a digital program that is reliable. And they call it a trustless transaction. Now, I know that might sound a little different. What is trustless? What it means is that it's a transaction of trust. Because the program is so robust and cannot be hacked, it cannot be changed. When you mentioned distributor ledger, it's a digital ledger.
It seems that Bitcoin was to create money without reliance on central banks.
So
now, there are multiple central bank digital currencies or CBDC projects out there. Now, please share your views on the role of CBDCs or how does it really work?
Yeah, so right now, banks are catching on to the technology and creating central bank digital currencies, and you may see them called CBDCs.
Yes.
And those actually are going to be tied directly to the organization. For example, you may have one of your large banks that create their own coin, their own cryptocurrency using the technology, using the digital technology. Now, when they create their own coin, this is going to be, we don't know yet exactly how effective it will be, but because of the reliance on the central banks today, individuals need that safety net. People need the safety net to know that there is something stable that's going to hold value. And what the central bank digital currency does is it brings in a sense of stability for the individual. And the other word for the central bank digital currency is called a stable coin. But what that does is it brings some stability, future stability,
Yes.
for individuals who are thinking about investing in cryptocurrency. They will see the validity of it through the stability of the bank by the bank issuing a stable coin or a CBDC.
So still, Lori, it will be a coin issued by a bank. It will not be like a dollar or a Indian rupee or any currency issued by the sovereign authority.
Well, and that's an interesting point because we do have the stable coins will be issued not just by banks, but also by nations.
Yeah.
The whole reason that Bitcoin came about or blockchain technology came about, and the main reason is the decentralization. When you're looking at stable coins or CBDCs, now those are taking the technology and centralizing it.
So you are back to square one.
So basically all we're doing is digitizing money.
Absolutely. Today, Bitcoins and all the cryptocurrencies are issued privately through algorithms of computers, if I may say. Now, what happens to those when the nations start issuing stable coins?
We don't really know that yet, but we do know that Bitcoin offers a decentralized way, a decentralized finance for individuals to not have to rely on an intermediary, and where the intermediary could be so costly. And if you think about the many people who do not have a bank account, banks can be costly with opening up an account and paying the monthly fees.
Correct.
So for all the people who are unbanked, which is now a new vocabulary word, the unbanked population would really benefit from the decentralized currency.
It sounds very, very futuristic and sounds very promising, I must say, because it is cashless. It reduces the central control. It reduces the cost of the transaction. Lori, I agree with you. But still, because the entire world will want to have some kind of guarantee of the value that we are exchanging. So where does that guarantee come from?
So the value of Bitcoin right now, if we have a limited supply. So the total amount of Bitcoin that can ever be produced in this algorithm, in this blockchain, is 21 million Bitcoin. That's it.
That's the maximum.
That's the maximum. With the last Bitcoin, and this was purposeful, it won't be produced until 2040. So right now there are 18.5 million already produced and owned. So the value is based on the future value and the usage. So we already have 18.5 million issued. The nice thing about it is now we're able to buy fractions of Bitcoin. And when I say fractions, it doesn't mean I might have a dime or 10 cents, which goes only to 2 decimal places. Now I can go to 0.000006 Bitcoin and purchase that much, which we actually have a name for that already.
What is that?
It's a Satoshi.
Satoshi.
It's a Satoshi. Yeah, Satoshis are the smaller fractions of Bitcoin.
How does really cryptocurrency started? Can you dwell upon that? And how did really Bitcoin, the term Bitcoin, came into existence?
The idea of creating a digital cash came about when the internet was created back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And so there was something called DigiCash that was tried, and it failed. It was before its time. Like you said, this sounds science fiction, right? It sounds futuristic. So DigiCash came about, was never used. If you think back at the, for anybody's interested in video games, there was the Intellatech, which created a lot of video games, but it was never went to mainstream. Then we went to an Atari, then we went to a Nintendo. We have all these changes across time. Well, so the technology was created back in the late 80s, early 90s, but there wasn't really a need for it or value that could be established because everything technology was so new. Now, fast forward to a time where we experienced worldwide recessions. We experienced the dot-com recession of 2001 and 2002, which was worldwide. I know the US was hit pretty hard with the dot-com recession. And then also we had the great real estate recession, which hit the US very hard in 2007, 8, 9, all the way till 2011 were the effects, where our values just plummeted. And during that time, thousands of banks closed their doors in the United States. So while that recession was happening, there were a group of people between the years 2000 to 2009 that were developing a way to create an algorithm or a program that was encrypted where we could digitize money. And so, of course, it requires time, it requires a process, and it required think tanks of engineers and scientists. And so we have an individual, his name is, individual, or we say a consortium of thought leaders. And it's an unknown person called Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, Satoshi Nakamoto has a white paper, and the white paper actually has Satoshi Nakamoto as the name. So I'm just going to reiterate.
Sure.
We don't know if the founder of Bitcoin's name is one person, Satoshi Nakamoto, or if it is the consortium of 4 thought leaders that created the white paper, which explained
4 thought leaders.
Yeah, which explained the premise of Bitcoin. So it was created during times of recession when people found that their reliance on banks or their reliance on another party to handle their money was not so reliable.
So would it be correct to say that it's an exchange system?
Absolutely, it's an exchange system.
Could you explain in a very simpler form with an example as to how does one get a cryptocurrency? How does open an account, and how does one transact on a Bitcoin?
One would use an authorized exchange in your country, or you may know somebody that has Bitcoin already in a digital wallet, and that digital wallet can be held on your phone or on your computer. Now, you can purchase Bitcoin from an exchange. Once you have the cryptocurrency, can you purchase anything with it? And absolutely, yes, you can. And there's 2 ways to go about it. You actually would buy directly from your digital wallet.
Okay.
And the transaction only takes 10 minutes. There are checks and balances built within the technology that make sure that transaction is valid and real.
And who hosts or who is controlling or managing this whole technology platform?
Nobody is. The people are. The people who are using the system are the ones who are the verifiers. So we have an opportunity to become what you call a node, an NODE. A node is a checkpoint. So these checkpoints can be set up on anybody's computer, anywhere in the world, and the transaction is not complete until we have at least the nodes verifying that the transaction is a valid transaction. It's basically a self-generated program that checks itself.
There are today multiple cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
So all those cryptocurrencies, do they have their own systems, or everything works under one system?
Bitcoin is the base cryptocurrency. It's the base blockchain.
Okay.
Many of the new cryptocurrencies, or which we call them altcoins, have been built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. So a lot of them do use the Bitcoin blockchain, but yet a lot of them have built layers and layers and are built on top of those layers of Bitcoin technology.
What is the opportunity that you see for Indian startups, for example, in the crypto space?
Oh, so right now, I just finished a course. I'm a certified international blockchain advisor. And this was held with the organization IOGA, which is the Indian Online Global Academy, that offers the course for anybody who is looking at learning more about blockchain, because it is fairly new. And so right now, the main concern in India is creating regulations around blockchain technology. So we had a lot of attorneys and law associations in the course, so they can actually help create the framework around the regulations. So the startups that we're seeing are individuals creating with the technology, with blockchain technology, and this is called, we have something called smart contracts, which is a digital contract.
Yes.
And so with COVID, a lot of people are working their business from home and or computerizing their processes. And we can computerize the processes using this blockchain technology that Bitcoin runs off of.
I see.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those startups happening.
Is there not standard rules and regulations globally around the cryptocurrencies?
So I will say that right now there are all being built. The World Economic Forum is talking about what they're going to do, how they're going to regulate, if they are able to regulate. So right now, is there a global framework in place? It's all being created as we speak, because they see the popularity and the effectiveness of this new currency, of transacting in the new currency. So those are all being built as we speak. And I believe it's going to take, a few years to get something that in place globally. Yeah.
Yes. No, on one hand, what you're saying is right, that cryptocurrencies and blockchain has really helped easing out the transactions. There is a speed, there is a completely decentralization, and everything is fine. But if we were to, if nations are going to issue their own bitcoins, they will obviously have their own rules and regulations, and that may clash with the whole concept of making cryptocurrency decentralized. Yes.
Yeah, certainly. Can we have centralized regulations with a decentralized currency? That's a very, very good question. Is that possible?
I'm a lawyer, Laurie. I'm a lawyer.
Yeah, so yeah, you absolutely have to ask that question, right? So, I absolutely believe that this decentralized finance can work just fine. But maybe what we have is a mindset where we need to regulate, so we all have a safety or a certainty about how we're going to transact. And this is being new. There's a lot of uncertainty around it.
One of the arguments in favor of cryptocurrencies is the speed and the low cost of transactions, including between the people without bank accounts. Now, what are your views on the potential of greater financial inclusions through crypto?
Well, I think that the opportunity exists here, that countries and individuals without access to banks or without access to saving their earnings has a possibility by transacting in Bitcoin to actually, because the future value is going to be so great. And an individual right now who buys $10 of Bitcoin might turn it into $1,000 as we see the value continue to go up. It is planning there. Remember, only 0.5% of the population worldwide uses Bitcoin or is even knowledgeable about it. So by somebody purchasing it now and holding on to it now, it can create future value, which will allow somebody who never had an opportunity to have a lot of money or to create wealth. This is an opportunity right now within the next 2 years for individuals to create wealth for their future and for their family's future.
So how far away are we from seeing crypto going mainstream, and what according to you needs to be done to support the process?
I think that people are waking up, and we're seeing, because Bitcoin's on a public ledger, you can go to blockchain.com and you can see the purchases, and there are millions of dollars being moved over into Bitcoin. And we have some large institutions starting to purchase Bitcoin for their investors. So it's just like the advent of the computer in the early 90s. Few people had computers at the very beginning. And when we got mass adoption, it happened very quickly, and it happened over a period of 2 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're looking at. We're at the very beginning of the 2 to 5 years of mass adoption. So right now, when people look at it and they say, oh, wow, Bitcoin's $23,000, that's too expensive. Guess what? You don't need to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy 0.2, you can buy $1,000 of Bitcoin. You can buy $100 of Bitcoin. See, it's fractional. So we are using the decimal places now to our advantage of this digital money.
What is your boldest vision for the future of cryptocurrencies?
I believe that we're absolutely going to be able to use the decentralized system to the benefit of the people. And so we do have the two systems running in parallel, a decentralized system and a centralized system. And I would say that's going to be over the next decade until people start to understand that they can take control of their own finances and create sort of their own sovereignty within their own family. And so the mindset does have to shift, and that is going to be up to the people and education. It's going to be up to individuals believing that they can they can be in full responsibility of their own finances, for the decentralized finance to actually take over, if there's going to be a Bitcoin as a global standard. But if we still have the mindset of people of, we do feel safer and want somebody to help take care of this for me and using an intermediary, well, that still exists with this technology under what we call the CBDCs, or the stable coins. So I see this parallel system is going to go for about 10 years while people start to get introduced to it and start to understand it. But ultimately, it's the adoption. What are we going to all decide to adopt? Our world's getting smaller. No longer are we bound by country. We can transact anywhere in the world. And if we don't have the conversions of the currency, that makes it all the easier as well. Yeah. So I see it being a system, or allowing us to have more of a global commerce, and to be able to transact more effectively. And individuals who do not use banks actually have an opportunity to create sovereignty and wealth. Yeah.
Laurie, it has been really a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you so much, Nathan.